In the quiet town of Ravenbrooke, a house burned to the ground, and everyone thought Daniel Mercer died in the fire, but the body pulled from the ashes wasn't his, a stranger's corpse, a missing husband, and a trail of secrets buried deep in smoke and lies. Detective Evelyn Grant knows this was no accident, it was murder. As she hunts for the truth, she'll uncover blackmail, betrayal, and a wife willing to kill to protect her own secrets. Gunfire in the night, a town watching in silence, a family consumed by fire in Ravenbrooke. Ashes don't lie, but people do. The town of Ravenbrooke, Pennsylvania was the kind of place where nothing ever happened, or at least nothing that people admitted out loud. Old coal mines lay abandoned on its edges, and the only thing glowing at night was the neon sign of a rundown diner called Marty's Grill. On a damp October night, the calm cracked. Detective Evelyn Grant, 37, sharp-eyed and stubborn, stood in front of what used to be a beautiful suburban home. Now it was a smoldering ruin, black smoke curling into the night sky, fire trucks hissed water, neighbors huddled under umbrellas, and the smell of burnt timber hung thick. But this wasn't an accident. Evelyn could feel it. The fire captain pulled off his mask. Grant, we pulled one body out, male, mid-40s, house belonged to Daniel Mercer, local insurance broker. But he hesitated. But what? Evelyn pressed the accelerant, gasoline. Someone torched the place deliberately. Inside the wreckage, the body was charred beyond recognition. Yet near the kitchen, Evelyn's flashlight picked up something out of place, a metallic locket, untouched by the flames, glinting faintly. She bagged it. As she stepped out, rain beginning to pour harder, a neighbor rushed over, pale and shaking. "Detective, you don't understand. Daniel Mercer couldn't have been inside. Why not?" Evelyn asked. "Because." The woman's voice broke. "Because I saw him drive away just minutes before the fire started." Evelyn froze, eyes narrowing at the smoking ruins. If Daniel Mercer had left the house alive, then whose body was burning inside? Morning came gray and wet over Ravenbrooke. The house on Elmwood Street was still taped off, blackened timbers hissing as if the fire hadn't finished whispering its secrets. Detective Evelyn Grant arrived with a black coffee in hand. The coroner, Dr. Lucas Price, was waiting beside the van, clipboard tucked under his arm. "You're not going to like this?" he said. "I usually don't," Evelyn muttered. Inside the van, the sheet was pulled back. The corpse was burnt beyond recognition, but Dr. Price pointed at the jaw. Dental implants. Definitely not Daniel Mercer. This man was younger, late 20s maybe, strong build, cause of death, gunshot wound to the chest. Fire was just the cover-up. Evelyn frowned. Someone wanted Mercer's house to be a coffin for the wrong man. Back at the precinct, she started digging into Mercer's life. On paper, he was clean, respected insurance broker, happily married, no priors, but his financials told another story hidden. Accounts, large unexplained cash deposits, and a withdrawal of $50,000 just 2 days ago. The wife, Caroline Mercer, arrived mid-afternoon, grieving, yes, but something about her grief felt rehearsed. "Caroline, when was the last time you saw your husband?" Evelyn asked gently. Caroline dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "Yesterday morning. He said he had errands. I never saw him again, until they told me he died in the fire. Except it wasn't him." Evelyn cut in. "Mrs. Mercer, your husband is alive. Do you know where he is?" Caroline's hands trembled, the tissue shredding between her fingers. I don't know. Daniel wouldn't just disappear. He's not that kind of man." But Evelyn caught the flicker in her eyes, a lie. That evening, she drove back to the ruins of the Mercer house. Rain had washed away most of the soot, but Evelyn spotted something half. Buried in the mud near the driveway, a burnt leather wallet. Inside, a driver's license. The dead man's name was Ryan Cole, age 29, ex-convict, address listed, Pittsburgh. Evelyn whispered to herself, "So Daniel Mercer brings home an ex-con. He ends up shot in the chest, and then the house goes up in flames." The question is, did Mercer kill Ryan, or is Mercer running from someone who did? She didn't notice the black sedan parked 2 blocks away, engine idling, someone inside watching her every move. Detective Evelyn Grant didn't like being watched. By the next morning, she had traced the black sedan's license plate through traffic cameras. The car was a rental, paid in cash. Whoever was tailing her didn't want to leave a name, but she had a stronger lead now. Ryan Cole, the dead man in Mercer's house. Ryan's record showed burglary, assault, and a 2-year stretch in prison for armed robbery. Evelyn dug deeper. He'd been paroled 6 months ago, and his parole officer's notes painted a clear picture. Ryan had a new employer, someone wealthy, someone who paid in cash. One name appeared in the officer's log, scribbled in a corner, D. Mercer. Evelyn drove straight to Caroline Mercer's home. Caroline answered the door, eyes red, mascara smudged. Evelyn said firmly, "Ryan Cole worked for your husband." "Why?" Caroline froze. I don't know what you're talking about. Your husband hired an ex-con. That ex-con winds up dead in your burned-down house. And your husband gone. You know where Daniel is, Mrs. Mercer. Tell me before I find him myself. Caroline broke. He called me last night, said not to trust anyone, said it's bigger than us. Then he hung up. That evening, Evelyn followed a tip, Daniel's financial activity. A motel on the outskirts of Ravenbrooke had taken a cash payment under an alias, but security footage caught his face. He was hiding there. When Evelyn arrived, room 7's curtains were drawn, a faint light inside. She knocked. "Daniel Mercer, this is Detective Grant." Opened the door. Silence, then a voice. "I didn't kill him." "You need to believe me." Evelyn entered slowly. Mercer looked worn, unshaven, eyes darting. On the bed lay a duffel bag stuffed with cash, documents, and a handgun. "Explain." Evelyn demanded. Daniel swallowed. "Ryan Cole was blackmailing me. Years ago, I helped set up fraudulent insurance claims. Easy money. Ryan found out, threatened to expose me unless I paid. I gave him 50 grand already, but he wanted more. So you shot him?" Evelyn pressed. "No." "I came home, found him dead in my study. Someone got to him first. Then the fire started. I barely escaped. Whoever killed Ryan wanted me blamed." Before Evelyn could respond, glass shattered. Gunfire ripped through the motel room. Daniel dove to the floor. Evelyn rolled behind the dresser, gun drawn. Outside, a shadowy figure fired again, then sped off in the same black sedan she'd seen earlier. When the dust settled, Daniel was trembling. Evelyn secured the room, then called it in. Hours later, the car was found abandoned. Inside the glove box, a burner phone with one number on speed dial. Records traced the number to Caroline Mercer, the wife. Confronted with the evidence, Caroline finally confessed. Ryan Cole hadn't been Daniel's blackmailer. He'd been hers. He threatened to expose her affair with a state senator. Terrified, she lured Ryan to the house, planning to scare him off. Instead, panic and gunfire left Ryan dead. To protect herself, she doused the house in gasoline, knowing suspicion would fall on her husband's shady dealings. But Caroline hadn't counted on Daniel vanishing, or on Evelyn digging deeper. The case closed with Caroline under arrest, Daniel negotiating a deal with prosecutors to confess his insurance fraud in exchange for protection. On her way out of the station, Evelyn paused by the evidence locker. The silver locket she'd found at the fire scene still glimmered under fluorescent light. Inside was a picture of Caroline Mercer, smiling. She had dropped it during the chaos of the fire, the one mistake that unraveled it all. Evelyn pocketed her badge and headed into the cool night. Ravenbrooke's streets were quiet again, but she knew better. In a town built on ashes, secrets never stayed buried for long. Morning came gray and heavy over Ravenbrooke. A low mist clung to the valley, muffling the sound of passing cars. The Mercer residence was now a skeleton of charred wood and twisted beams, still taped off and guarded by a patrol car. Neighbors drove past slowly, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the blackened ruin that had already turned into gossip fodder at the diner. Detective Evelyn Grant stood with a paper cup of bitter coffee in one hand, her other hand buried in the pocket of her trench coat. Her eyes stayed fixed on the coroner's van parked nearby. Dr. Lucas Price, the county medical examiner, was already there. He was tall, thin, and perpetually tired looking, his lab coat smudgy from long nights in the morgue. He met Evelyn's gaze and shook his head before she even asked. "Evelyn, don't tell me I'm not going to like this, am I?" Dr. Price, grimly you're not. He lifted the tarp inside the van. The body was badly burned, but Price pointed with a gloved finger toward the jaw. Dr. Price, dental implants, expensive ones, not consistent with Daniel Mercer's dental records. Age is off too. Mercer's 47. This man, late 20s, maybe early 30s, strong build, and see this? He touched a dark, round hole beneath the ruined sternum. Dr. Price, gunshot wound to the chest. He was dead before the fire started. This wasn't Mercer, Evelyn. Someone else was killed in that house, and then the fire was set to make sure no one asked questions. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Evelyn, so the question isn't just who killed him. It's also why put his body in Mercer's house. Back at the precinct, Evelyn pored over Daniel Mercer's files. On paper, he was exactly what Ravenbrooke expected. A successful insurance broker, active in the Rotary Club, husband to Caroline Mercer for 15 years. No criminal history, no lawsuits. But Evelyn had learned to look beneath polished surfaces. His financial records told a different story: hidden accounts, strange wire transfers, and a withdrawal of $50,000 in cash just 48 hours before the fire. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the monitor, Evelyn muttering, 50 grand doesn't just walk away without a reason. By mid-afternoon, Caroline Mercer arrived at the station. She wore black slacks and a cream blouse, her hair tied neatly back. Her face was pale, makeup slightly smeared. She clutched a tissue like it was the only thing holding her together. Evelyn guided her into the interview room, trying to balance empathy with suspicion. Evelyn, Mrs. Mercer, I know this is difficult, but I need to ask you some questions about your husband. Caroline, quietly, I'll do my best. Evelyn, when was the last time you saw him? Caroline, dabbing at her eyes, yesterday morning. He said he had errands. I never saw him again. Until they told me he died in the fire. Evelyn studied her carefully, letting the silence drag on. Caroline avoided her gaze, fingers shredding the tissue into little pieces. Evelyn, the victim we pulled from your house isn't your husband. Daniel is alive, and that means he's somewhere out there, either running from something or hiding from someone. Caroline froze, her breath catching in her throat. For a fraction of a second, panic flickered across her face before she composed herself again. Caroline, I don't understand. If it wasn't Daniel, then who? Evelyn, that's what I intend to find out. Do you know anyone who might have been with him yesterday? Any unusual visitors? Caroline, shaking her head too quickly, no. Daniel doesn't. He wouldn't bring strangers to our home. Her voice was trembling. Evelyn had been a detective too long to miss the signs. Caroline was lying, or at least hiding something. That evening, unable to let the unease go, Evelyn returned to the burned-out shell of the Mercer home. Rain had washed away much of the soot, but the earth around the driveway was still soft. As she moved her flashlight across the mud, something caught the beam, a corner of blackened leather. She crouched, tugged it free, a half-burnt wallet. Inside, though singed, the driver's license was still legible, Ryan Cole. Age 29, Pittsburgh address. Evelyn's breath misted in the cool night air. Evelyn to herself, Ryan Cole, ex-con. What the hell were you doing in Daniel Mercer's house? The puzzle pieces were shifting, but they refused to lock together. If Ryan Cole was the man in the fire, what connected him to Daniel Mercer? Why had Mercer disappeared, and who had set the fire? Mercer himself, or someone else trying to cover their tracks? Evelyn stood, her instincts prickling. The night was too quiet, the street was empty, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. 2 blocks down, a black sedan sat parked beneath a dead street lamp. Its engine idled softly, exhaust curling into the mist. Inside, unseen eyes followed Evelyn's every move, and then, just as quickly, the headlights flared, and the car slipped silently into the fog. Evelyn tightened her coat and looked back at the ruins. She had a name now, Ryan Cole, but with it came a bigger question. Was Daniel Mercer the killer, the victim, or just the next name on someone's list? The motel on the edge of Ravenbrooke smelled of mildew, cigarettes, and lost time. Detective Evelyn Grant parked her car outside room 7, her Glock holstered but ready. The rain from earlier had turned to mist, fog swirling under the yellow glow of the parking lot lamps. She knew Daniel Mercer was here. His name wasn't on the motel's guest log, but security footage from the night clerk's camera had shown him slipping in under an alias. He looked thinner, haunted, and in a hurry. Evelyn knocked. Evelyn, Daniel Mercer. "This is Detective Grant. Open the door. We need to talk." A pause, shuffling from inside. The door cracked an inch, chain still fastened. A pair of bloodshot eyes stared out. "Daniel, I didn't kill him." "You need to believe me." Evelyn kept her voice calm. "Evelyn, then let me in, Daniel." "Hiding only makes you look guilty." The chain slid free. Inside, the room was dimly lit, the curtains drawn. Mercer looked disheveled, unshaven, clothes rumpled, his hands trembling. On the bed lay a duffel bag stuffed with cash and documents. A handgun sat beside it. "Evelyn, tell me everything." "Start from the beginning." Daniel, running a hand through his hair. Ryan Cole. "He was blackmailing me. Years ago, I set up fraudulent insurance claims. Easy money, until someone noticed. Cole found out and threatened to ruin me unless I paid. I gave him 50 grand already, but he kept coming back. More money, more threats. I didn't kill him, detective. I swear, I came home, found him dead in my study, shot. Before I could even think, the fire started. I barely escaped." Evelyn studied him, trying to read the cracks in his story. "Evelyn, so someone killed Ryan Cole, torched your house, and left you to take the fall. Why would they do that?" Daniel, shaking his head. "I don't know. Maybe he was blackmailing someone else too. Maybe they wanted to tie it back to me." "I'm not a saint, detective, but I'm not a murderer." Before Evelyn could reply, glass shattered. Gunfire tore through the motel window. Daniel dove to the floor, screaming. Evelyn rolled behind the dresser, drawing her weapon. A shadowy figure stood outside, firing into the room. The gunfire stopped, tires screeched. A car sped away into the fog. The same black sedan Evelyn had seen watching her at the fire scene. Evelyn ran to the window, but the sedan was already gone, its taillights swallowed by mist. 2 hours later, officers found the abandoned sedan near an industrial park. Inside the glove box was a burner phone with one number programmed on speed dial. Evelyn traced it quickly, heart pounding. The number belonged to Caroline Mercer. At the station, Caroline sat across from Evelyn, hands folded neatly, eyes cool. No tears this time, no trembling tissue. Just resignation. "Evelyn, Ryan Cole wasn't blackmailing your husband, was he? He was blackmailing you." "Caroline, after a pause, he knew about the affair with Senator Whittaker. If it came out, the scandal would have destroyed me. And him? Ryan threatened to leak everything. I begged him to stop. He wouldn't. Evelyn, so you lured him to the house." Caroline, nodding faintly. "Daniel was supposed to be out. It was just supposed to be a warning. But it got out of hand. I panicked. The gun went off. Ryan was dead. And then all I could think about was covering it, the fire. It was the only way." Her voice cracked, but her eyes stayed dry. "Evelyn, you almost burned your own husband alive. And when that failed, you tried to finish the job with a hired gun." Caroline, coldly, "Daniel's always been weak. He deserved to go down." Evelyn leaned back, disgust heavy in her chest. "Evelyn, no, Caroline. You're the one going down. For murder, for arson, and for trying to frame the man who trusted you." By dawn, Caroline Mercer was booked. Daniel, though guilty of insurance fraud, agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. His testimony against his wife, and the senator she was entangled with, would keep him out of prison, but not out of shame. Evelyn finished her report late that night. The precinct was quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights her only company. She pulled the silver locket from the evidence bag, the one she'd found untouched by flames. Inside was a photograph, Caroline Mercer, smiling brightly, as the world had never touched her. The locket had slipped during the chaos of the fire, the one thread that had unraveled her entire web of lies. Evelyn closed the locket and set it back in the bag. She slipped her badge into her coat pocket and stepped outside. The streets of Ravenbrooke were calm. Again, the mist lifting under the glow of street lamps, but Evelyn knew better. In this town, secrets never really died. They just waited for the next fire to burn them alive. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.